Well, thank you, Chuck. We now arrive at the ultimate session of the Manning Networking Conference, and that is the Democracy Challenge. And in order to introduce that, I want to introduce Leah Costello, who's the founder of the Bon Mot Book Club in Vancouver, Toronto, and Calgary. Its most exclusive and intellectually stimulating event series, and has hosted a number of high-profile speakers like Michael Lewis, Sarah Palin, former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf. And in addition to this series, she regularly hosts other authors for lunch discussions and other conversations, posting their presentations and interviews on her iTunes channel, Leah Costello Online. Leah is also former director of events for the Fraser Institute, as well as producer and host of Fraser TV. She's an active volunteer in politics. She's run for the Conservative nomination in North Vancouver in 2005 and continues to get engaged in issues both on the provincial and federal level. She's an author of the book Preaching to the Unconverted: How Fans of the Free Market Can Win Friends and Influence People, based on a series of interviews with high-profile and successful Conservative leaders and using their stories as case studies. This book will be published in the spring of 2012. She's a dynamic individual, very winsome. She's going to take us through this Democracy Challenge. Leah Costello.
Thank you so much, and I very much appreciate our speakers who held the audience rapt, and I think that's why we have so many of you left still in the room for this afternoon. It is so great to be back here at the Manning Center Conference, where I was 2 years ago and was the recipient of the Manning Center Democracy Challenge Prize. I think that billing this conference as a Conservative family reunion has been absolutely terrific, because any reunion involves old friends, new friends, common ground, and conflict. And I think that's what makes it so much fun and so valuable to be a part of these discussions. I'm delighted to be hosting this part of the program because the Manning Center Democracy Challenge is about ideas. It's about big ideas. It's a testament to Preston's passion and belief for seeking out and supporting the next big ideas that are so critical to our movement going forward. And I think that this is a terrific opportunity for those in the movement to get creative and to contribute to this. So thank you very much to Preston and to the Center for supporting that through this program. As I mentioned, I was very honored to win the Democracy Challenge here 2 years ago, and so I wanted to give you a quick update on that project. I think we have a slide coming up. Some of you may remember my story. Essentially, I was raised in a socialist environment with socialist ideals. My mother was a union activist with the BC Teachers Federation and raised me to be very passionate not just about education, but also health, poverty, and all manner of social causes. I came to university as a supporter of the NDP. There is the phrase that says that if you're not a socialist when you're 20, you have no heart, and that if you're not a conservative by the time you're 30, then you have no head. So I was just 18 when I arrived at UBC in September of 1991, and by October of that year, just 1 month later, I was a Conservative. More specifically, a card-carrying member of the Reform Party. And for those of you who have been kind enough to inquire, you're right that by that time I was also subsequently disowned by my mother. The point, though, is this. There is a path to introducing people to the ideals and values that include freedom, responsibility, and understanding of the role of markets. There are opportunities to open people's minds, to broaden perspectives, and to create small c conservatives. With some people, it never happens, and with some it takes the decade that I referred to, and with some it happens much faster. In my case, it took less than 4 weeks. And it was in those 4 weeks, it was because I'd listened to the ideas of Mike Walker of the Fraser Institute and Preston Manning, then leader of the Reform Party. What was it about their message and the style in which they communicated that could open my mind, influence my ideas, and lead me down this new path? That is where my curiosity lies. How to do more of this, more quickly, and for more people. In all situations where thoughts are transformed, there is a beginning, a moment, an instant, a time where the seeds of a new idea are planted. And over time, those seeds can be nurtured and grown and flourish into a new set of ideals, convictions, and values. Using that analogy, those who are transformed by new ideas are then in a position to plant new seeds with others. Much of the conversation at this conference has been focused on how to do this, how to win the hearts and minds of those who are not already in the tent that encompasses conservative and free market values. And that is what my project, which was funded by the Manning Center 2 years ago at the last conference, is all about. There are those of you here who are experts in economic, fiscal, and social policy, who have spent years, if not decades, researching and creating good policy ideas and a path forward for our society that includes a smaller role for government, more reliance on the individual, and creating a culture of freedom, innovation, and prosperity. I am a student of your ideas, but not a creator of them. My role with this project is to look at the gap between the great ideas and the people who are outside the tent, and to look at how those good ideas can be shared, how good ideas can grow, and how all of us, not just the academics, politicians, and policymakers, can talk about those ideas and influence others. My project is called Preaching to the Unconverted: How to Talk Ideas and Influence People. With the $10,000 I received, I have done the following. I've interviewed over 40 leaders in the conservative movement to seek out their knowledge and insights into the most effective styles and strategies that they've used in order to communicate their ideas and plant the seeds with others. These interviews have included conversations with many known to you: Mike Harris, Mike Walker, Wild Rose leader Danielle Smith, Fred Barnes, the publisher of the Weekly Standard, John Carpe, Peter Coleman, Terence Corcoran, Tasha Carradine, Brian Lee Crowley, Tom Flanagan, Andrew Coyne, and many others. As with many projects, the more interviews I've done, the more I want to do. I feel like I've just started this conversation on how to communicate conservative and free market ideals. All of these interviews were videotaped and edited to create a kind of conservative archive, which we hope to keep and display at the Manning Center. The audio tracks have been edited into podcasts and are about to be published on iTunes for distribution. And finally, I've done my best to synthesize and pull out all of the major teachings or aha moments from these interviews into a training guide so that others in the conservative movement can learn from these experts in our field. We hope to have this published and also available online. However, as usual, what started with a simple idea and a simple contest here at the Manning Center Conference has become a passion for me. I plan to dedicate more time and resources to this project. As I said, I'd like to continue interviews with people. However, I'm very curious to look at and interview people in other fields who can tell us how to influence others. And by that, I mean business leadership consultants, mediators. Someone even suggested marriage counselors, people that can look at groups that are on either side of an issue and help them come together. We're designing a website which will host the training guide podcast and video called preachingtotheunconverted.com. I plan to develop a training curriculum that can be delivered online as well as in person. And I'm looking for other new ideas as to how we can further this project and disseminate new information. So thank you very much for the opportunity over the last couple of years to work on that project. And now we'd like to go to the challenge this year. First of all, I'd like to introduce our judges to the stage. Deb Grey. She's the den mother of the conservative movement in Canada, and she was the first ever Reform Member of Parliament and the first female leader of the official opposition. She has received a number of distinctions, including the Order of Canada. Cliff Fryers, it is an understatement to say that he has played an active role in the creation and development of the Reform Party of Canada. An understatement. He has served as the Chief of Staff to Preston Manning, and now he is a business executive and some would say a recovering lawyer. He will ask the hard questions today. I can attest to that as a presenter last time. Steve Madeley, one of the veterans of the Ottawa news scene. He hosts the capital's top-rated radio show, Madeley in the Morning, and he's also a regular commentator on Ottawa's A Morning Show and winner of the Radio Television News Directors Association National Award for Excellence in Reporting. Now, if this is starting to look like Dragon's Den on TV, that's exactly how we've set it up. So here are your dragons. And we are now about to introduce the presenters in just one moment. Just to let you know, over the last few months, we've scoured the country for new ideas. People were asked to submit their proposals and ask how they would like to strengthen conservatism, free markets, and democracy. We received over 20 submissions. The judges have shortlisted them down to 3 finalists. Each presenter will be given 5 minutes for their pitch, not a second more, and then there'll be one question from each of the judges. At that point, the judges will take a short break, and we have some entertainment for you, where they will decide who will be the winner of the $10,000 prize. The very first decision that we had to make was what order the presenters would come in, so we decided to go alphabetical. I would like to welcome to the stage Pierre-Olivier Bastien-Dionne.
I have a video, so... Here you are. I have to speak through the microphone? Can I have a microphone?
You could use that one.
Okay,
Yeah.
but I want to address the judges.
Okay.
Hi, everyone knows internet videos, right? Oh, yeah, thanks. Everyone loves them. I watch them all the time. Epic Mealtime, Freddy Wong, equals to etc. People love them. And it's because people love them that I think they're important. They're not as boring as a long article or as time-consuming as a long podcast. I mean, people are lazy. They want the easy stuff. And I think that's why videos are crucial to attract new people to ideas about freedom and free markets. American think tanks understood that some time ago. Heritage Foundation started its YouTube channel back in '06. Sorry. But I think Canadian think tanks are lagging behind. And I think that's where my project comes into play. If I win the Democracy Challenge, I will use the $10,000 to produce videos for Canadian think tanks and institute to promote an issue to raise awareness over an issue of their choice. I will take advantage of my experience in filming, editing, and animation to make the best quality video possible. Here's an example of what I can do in a couple hours. Roll clip. Oh, codec mistake.
You can sing now.
Okay. Sorry. Hi, this is just a really quick video to demonstrate what we can achieve with 2 cameras, a DSLR and a video cam, with a basic lighting setup, which is 3-point lighting, very standard in interviews and one-person shooting. And the audio is recorded with an external recorder, the Zoom H4n, with a lavalier microphone. Here is a random image with text, and here is some random graph. Thank you very much. Yeah. So as you can see, there are a lot of techniques involved in video production. There is editing, sound editing, lighting, and animation. For simple animation, I can do it, but the help of hired professionals is not excluded. The same is true for narration and original music. We can easily outsource it at low cost. Step 1 is really to contact think tanks and ask them if they want a video produced. After that, they have to choose an issue, and we will work together to write a concept, write a script, and find a video concept that suits their needs. For that, I suggest that they go over to a YouTube channel of American think tank and find the kind of video that they like. There are like 2 types of video we can do. Mostly interview-based, which we just shoot someone and we record what they're saying, and animation-based, which is more animation like the NCC presented. Overall, the process can take up to several weeks, depending on the complexity of the video, as well as the pre-production length. But shooting can all be done in one day, as I've mentioned in the paper. And editing only takes a couple hours. So overall, I think Canadian think tanks will benefit a lot from videos to attract new people, to raise awareness about new issues that people may not have heard yet, plant a new seed. And that's why I think my project may come handy in the debate.
very much. Okay, our first presenter. Now we're going to go to the dragons who are each going to ask the question. Cliff, would you like to go first? Just keep talking into it.
We got it going now? Okay, there we are. Pierre, the one thing I'm having a little trouble with is you seem like a very aggressive, dynamic individual. Now, I don't want to be too hard on the think tanks, but that's not a character trait I'd apply to them. They are very thoughtful, organized, ruminating, whatever it takes. How do you think you're going to get them to agree on what shorts and what things they'll actually put out there? In other words, I think you're headed for the fact that you won't actually end up working for the think tanks. I think you'll end up being an independent YouTube kind of blogger. What do you say to that?
I've mentioned in what I just said that we will work together. So they will write the script, and I will make sure that at every step of the way they are satisfied with the product that I'm offering them, so that we don't waste time and money just debating.
So you are telling us
they're the boss.
You're telling us today you will be constrained by whatever process they put in place with respect to what you are effectively putting out there.
Of course.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was a good presentation. I appreciated it. In political life, you are giving yourself to them. It will be their product. You have to be happy with it. But in political life, we say it's your name on the lawn sign. What if you are not happy with the product that they are demanding from you?
I will not be the boss of them. I mean, it's a service that I'm offering. I don't want to be bossing them around. You know, what I think I can put my grain of salt is that I know the techniques, I know what can be done, what works and what does not work. That I think I can add to, but I don't want to overcome like the communication team of a think tank. That's really not my goal. We just want to go straight to the point, present a video that is attracting visually and with good sound, good quality, so that people respond to that.
I can see why you're one of the finalists. I have trouble with the fact that the think tanks have not been successful up till now in getting mass distribution of their message very often when they are putting out their studies. And it's your goal, clearly, to give them a vehicle that will achieve that. But what can you do to ensure that they reach a broader audience than the one they're already reaching now?
From what I saw, most Canadian think tanks have a YouTube channel, but a few of them are posting regularly, especially original content. Most of them are publishing media presence, which is really good. Media presence is really good, and but it's not everything. You know, original videos are best because you go straight to the point and you control the message, which in media you do not always do. And I think videos can be shown in television, which an article cannot be. You can send someone to talk to the media and interview them, but video is really short, straight to the point. You have images and words to convey your message. So I think, and it also can be shared in social media. We had yesterday a conference on social media on how much is it important to share on social media to touch your social network and spread the message through that. So I think that's one way videos are gonna help in. And also in the same conference, someone mentioned that if think tank or political parties had photos or videos with the press release, they had more response. So more response with photo and even more with videos. So that's where I think the money is. And if Canadian think tanks have not been proactive so much so far, I don't know if it's the lack of money or lack of will, but I know that the Frontier Center is starting its own production. I've been in contact with them. They just hired someone with video capability.
Terrific. Thank you so much for your presentation. Everybody give him a round of applause.
Thanks a lot.
Our next presenter is Vass Bednar.
I'm a bit jealous. I'm jealous of real estate agents and urban planners. Why? Because growing up, they each had board games tailored to their future professions. And what did I have? Online Boggle. Let me just tell you that there are actually no jobs in the labor market that reward one's ability to create a word out of a jumble of letters. Growing up in Hamilton, I'm sort of impressed that I stayed engaged in Canadian history and politics, because I didn't have a cool game to play with my friends. All I had were Pierre Burton books and Canadian heritage moments. And while those were great on an individual level, they didn't give me those opportunities to collaborate and engage with my peers in the way that I was craving. So, like so many of us here, I'm a policy person. I think governance is cool. But pretty much all governance-based games incorporate a fight component. Now, though national interests may at times seem incompatible with provincial ones, when we have a disagreement in the Federation, we don't invade and try to destroy each other. It's just not Canadian. So, I'd like to design a bilingual board game that simulates policymaking in the Federation with an optimal level of conflict, incorporating policy design, funding, and even equalization payments to help Canadians better grasp the mechanics of the Federation, and maybe even make those real estate agents and urban planners a little jealous too. So, where's my game? I didn't forget it, it just doesn't fully exist yet. I built a prototype with my friends. You can see some early praise for it. But I need help, your help, and help from Canadians. Designing the game is something that needs to be done collaboratively in consultation with our nation. I'll capitalize on online crowdsourcing platforms and build partnerships with other organizations. Using the web in this way will mitigate geographic and time barriers that would otherwise limit my ability to engage with Canadians. And I intend to build the game with a Canadian manufacturer. What else? In addition to building a game for your kitchen table, I will support the development of an online version. This version will be more sophisticated and ideally incorporate real data. Who knows? Maybe someone will even make an app for me. Most of all, my vision is that the development the development process will be as deliberative as Confederation was and intergovernmental relations are. I do see this board game as a national project, a board game for Canadians, by Canadians, that celebrates and strengthens our unique governance system. Can you imagine electing a prime minister who's played? Now, my mom asked me, does the world really need another board game? I see 4 benefits to this one. First, I want you to think about this game in a grade 10 civics class. It would catalyze questions about federalism and the Federation and the changing role of the state. A second source of value is that it can build capacity and interest in young people to join public life. How? It makes policy fun, and it moves the careful, rigorous, analytical thinking that policymaking and politics require to a place that is less restrictive and much more carefree. The game can also be played across generations, giving families opportunities to learn and share insights together. Third, it can endow Canadians and newcomers to Canada with a deeper appreciation of jurisdictional policy responsibilities. This has immense value as an integrative societal tool, helping others better understand how, what, and why provinces are responsible for, helps to equip citizens for productive participation in Canadian democracy. A fourth source of value is perhaps less obvious, but I do think that the game might help to rebuild admiration for public life by exposing more people to the immense complexities of managing a province and interacting in the Federation. I was quite struck yesterday morning with Andre Turcotte's data that showed the extremely low regard that we hold our politicians in. So who knows, maybe with this game, we'll get more young Canadians rolling up to Parliament Hill on their motorcycle. To close...
He's trying to buy a vote.
Don't eat my time. Okay, to close. To close, my idea has immense educational value. It's action-oriented, and I think a pretty good idea for Canadian democracy. Unlike most policy ideas, it requires no political buy-in and could actually be profitable at some sort of margin. Don't like the name? I have a backup. Wonks sounds a bit cooler. It has an X at the end and carries less connotations than this word federalism does, which comes with some baggage and previous interpretations. So, want to play? Me too. With your endorsement and this generous investment from the Manning Center for Building Democracy, we can have a beta version in September, and I'll play you in a round next year, March 2013. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and now I turn the floor over to our dragons.
Okay, I've looked at the schedule here that it would take you to build this game. If we give you this money, I actually asked the same question of you 2 years ago. If we give you this money, it says here month 12, you'll have it done.
Yeah.
Will you come back and show everybody in this room the game?
Oh, we'll be playing at every break. I'd like to have a table and play with people. Yes. I'm confident with my timeline that we could have a game, and if it's not in box form to be distributed, that we'd have the final prototype to get those final sort of kinks ironed out in people's impression of the game.
Now, let me focus on that time question. That means you have to have found all the people that will help you truly and deeply understand federalism and how it all works and put it into the game.
Well,
have you got all those people?
I don't have every single person. But in terms of the complexities of federalism, this is a board game, and because of that, it's an abstraction. It inherently has to simplify some aspects. So will I be in the next year an expert on federalism? No. I would never claim to do that, but I think I can engage leading minds in Canada, both from the top and the bottom, into talking about what this is, what it can and should be, and its history.
Okay, Deb.
And she's aiming for a grade 10 civics class, which has all, I taught that before I was elected, and that's a great level to start at. I can't imagine anything
it's higher than us,
someone
Deb.
showing up on Parliament Hill on a motorcycle.
It's higher than us, Deb.
You needed to have this roundabout last night at the Empire Grill. You just could have had all kinds of games going on there. And she says that the only thrills that she had growing up in Hamilton were the two she mentioned. Heck, she had Sheila Cobbs.
That's right. I did.
I would just like to ask how many people at the really practical level are going to be in on this? Because you did list in your presentation a lot of the wonks, shall we say?
Yes.
In terms of getting stuff done. But what's going to be fun for kids in this? Because I'll tell you, they aren't just going to buy in and say, oh, cool, I like the name Wonks with the X, that is very cool. But what are they going to say? Oh, hooray, we're going to civics class, we're going to play Wonks.
Well, I mean, they might say that. I think the really attractive and interesting part about the game is that it's competitive, but it's also collaborative. So you have this challenge where you're a leader, you have something, you know the demographics of it, you know a certain amount of money you might have, but in seeking to progress and make improvements, you're also looking to others, your competitors. You know, federalism is something that accommodates diversity and allows for experimentation. So at once you're looking to your peers, but also looking to inspire them as well.
And Steve.
Thank goodness for the policy wonks, and I think it's a great name. I'm concerned, though, that when it comes to coming up with a commercial product, the box, the game, you have to go to a board game company, and you mentioned that you will work in collaboration with them beginning at the 6th month. But do you really think you're going to find a profit-oriented game company that will look at this as a viable commercial product?
Okay, obviously my idealism tells me I will. I've been researching Canadian board game distributors, and in doing that, I've actually come up with some interesting models. One is selling the game, you know, online on a price scale model that says, you know, we price this game between, say, $30 and $49. What do you think the value is, and what would you like to pay for it? And I'd also be interested in moving towards more of a social enterprise model where I can attract maybe different types of investment because of the educational value and subsidize the game for schools that way so that I'm not charging school boards to have this game and use it. I'd like to have it widely available. I mean, I'm not going to say no to you. No, I don't think I could distribute it. That would be a terrible answer.
You know what your problem is here? If we actually gave you this money, you would have to do this. You realize you are committed. You are committed at this point. You would have to do it all.
I'm looking forward to it.
Is it
Thank you,
doable
Kevin
as an
O'Leary.
electronic game? Can you make it an electronic game as opposed to a board game?
Yes, actually, electronic games are a little bit easier in terms of their accessibility. It's a series of sort of conditional coding, but doesn't promote the collaboration. I mean, you can play online against other people. You could maybe play in a singular version on your phone, but again, you're behind the computer screen and you're not getting together at that sort of, proverbial table to get together. So in that way, it's less attractive to me. I feel like I have to go, though.
Yes, you
Is
do,
that-
but
that's a lot of
thank you so
questions.
much.
Okay,
thank you very much to
Thank you.
Vasily.
Thank you very much.
Okay, and for our third and final contestant, could we have Craig Dellandrea to the stage? Please welcome Craig. Thank you, Craig.
Blue on blue.
Nobody knows the words, but oh, look at I get a red one. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, judges, ladies and gentlemen. It's an honor to be able to present to you today. Thank you for the opportunity. Now, where do I point this thing? There we go. BlueCrowd.ca will be an online crowdfunding website that matches conservative writers, filmmakers, activists, and candidates with individuals who are willing to financially support projects that further the cause of conservatism and freedom in Canada. Before I speak about Blue Crowd in detail, I'd like to take a brief moment to talk about crowdfunding in general for those of you who may be unfamiliar with the term. Crowdfunding, or grassroots financing, is the process of pooling money from a group of people who share the desire to see a project through to completion. Crowdfunding is not a new concept, but new online technologies are making grassroots financing available to many who couldn't take advantage of it before. The leading crowdfunding site is the US-based Kickstarter.com, which raised more than $100 million in its first 2.5 years. While the use of online crowdfunding is maturing rapidly in the United States and the UK, Canada has been notably absent from this space. One exception is smallchangefund.org. Small Change Fund is associated with Tides Canada, and this fact underscores the need for a conservative alternative like BlueCrowd.ca. So why do we need something like Blue Crowd? Well, Canada is a large country with few people and even fewer conservatives. We need to connect efficiently in order to maximize our impact on our society. Blue Crowd aims to help that young conservative blogger or documentary filmmaker in Yellowknife connect with a like-minded individual in Moncton or Red Deer or Thunder Bay who wants to make their project a reality. So how does Blue Crowd harness the power of crowdfunding? It does this in 4 ways. Number 1, project funding. Blue Crowd will allow writers, filmmakers, and other creatives to pitch their project and solicit pledges from individual conservatives. Project budget can be anywhere from a few $100s to tens of thousands. Donations of all sizes can be accepted, and pledges need to be fulfilled only if all the money needed for a project has been pledged. Creatives can use video, audio, text, and graphics to promote their idea to potential supporters. An example project might be a filmmaker who wants to document a day in the life of a worker who crosses a picket line and is ostracized and harassed by his union leadership. The filmmaker may budget $5,000 for this project and solicit $10, $20, $30 donations from grassroots conservatives to realize his goal. The second way is news funding, telling the stories that aren't being told. Modeled after the American site Spot.us, this Blue Crowd functionality will bring together those who report the news with those who want a story told. This is done in 2 ways. Writers, filmmakers, or bloggers can pitch a story, and donors contribute funds to those stories they would like to see written. For example, a rural Ontario freelancer might propose a story dealing with the impact of subsidized wind farms on the local community. Once the story is funded through donations, the writer completes the project and releases it for publication. Conversely, a donor could propose a story that they want written. Similar to a bounty, the donor makes a contribution towards the story, encourages others to donate as well. A writer or reporter can then adopt the story and claim the bounty once the story has been delivered. Lobby funding. For ad hoc issues or niche policy issues that may not have a well-funded association through which supporters can work, Blue Crowd would allow activists to propose a lobbying effort and raise the funds from like-minded supporters to hire a lobbying firm. Finally, campaign fundraising. Candidates, for the most part, fundraise only in their own geographic area. Through Blue Crowd, candidates can get exposure across the country by posting profiles and highlighting their position on issues that resonate with donors from coast to coast. Likewise, groups who wish to counter the efforts of organizations like Working Families or Albertans for Change could use Blue Crowd to fund short-term electoral advertising campaigns. What about financial sustainability? Once Blue Crowd has been established, ongoing costs will be marketing and promotion, site maintenance, and server expense. By taking a 4% commission on all completed projects, Blue Crowd aims to be sustainable without outside funding. And finally, where will the prize money go? Towards completing the building of the website and enlisting a communications expert to develop a communications strategy. Since much of the technology to build Blue Crowd is already available as commercial and open source software, the site can be built for much less than $10,000. The difficulty in making a crowdfunding site successful is not the technology, but the crowd. Without a critical mass of users on both sides of the equation, this idea will not work. Success is therefore dependent on selling the idea of conservative crowdfunding to various conservative organizations and opinion leaders. And as individual conservatives promote their own Blue Crowd projects through social media and other means, awareness of the site will spread organically. Thank you for your time.
Sounds like you might be competing with our Democracy Challenge as a way of funding projects here. I'm going to ask the judges. I'm going to start down at the other end with Steve first.
Well, you mentioned you're going to spend 65% of the $10,000 promoting to conservative organizations across the country. Why do you have to take so much of your budget to do that? You think it's going to be a tough sell with them?
That's the critical element. Building the site isn't really it's not a technological challenge. It's the challenge for a crowdfunding site is building the crowd, getting that critical mass of users. You have to have, a good number of projects, and you have to have a good number of donors to make it work. So it's essential that as much of the conservative establishment knows about it, that we as individuals know about it, that we have that crowd there. That's the critical element. So that's where the bulk of the funding needs to go.
So, I'm not clear. Is that going to be taken up traveling to go visit conservative think tanks,
whether
et cetera?
it's that or doing webinars with them, all the communication strategy, the communications promoting of it to conservative opinion leaders.
I don't know if everybody can hear you. Just make sure you're speaking to the mic.
It's about communicating with opinion leaders, think tanks, the institutional sector, developing a communications, money to develop a communication strategy to reach them with the idea of Blue Crowd.
They're going to do think tank shorts so they could go and look at them over there. That'd be great. Now, if I think what a great opportunity for I as a conservative to put money into this, am I going to get a tax deduction for that?
So Blue Crowd is not a charitable organization, and your typical project will not be a charitable tax-deductible project. If an organization that has charitable status posts a project here under which they can issue a tax receipt, that's something that can happen. But typically what happens with crowdfunding sites is an individual conservative might have a film project or a written project that they want to promote, and there's no provision for a tax donation in that sort of situation.
It seemed to me, correct me if I'm wrong, but in your presentation you said that there would be a 3.5% profit margin there. Is that money that goes back to the original crowd or those who fund it?
So what I'm saying is the Blue Crowd will take a commission, 3.5%, 4%, of all the projects that are funded in order so that bluecrowd.ca itself is sustainable in the long run.
So if I give you 10 grand, because I think it's a great project, maybe there's a tax receipt, maybe not, I just get the benefit of knowing I helped out.
Right, so typically the point of crowdfunding is it doesn't generally reach people that are giving $10,000. It reaches a lot of people that are giving $50 or $10 or $100. So yeah, you're giving to support some sort of artistic endeavor or some sort of campaign that you have an affinity for that otherwise wouldn't get funded.
Okay. Thanks.
You describe, and Steve's question, it's about making the crowd. I'm worried about keeping the crowd blue. If this actually worked, and let me be clear, I like this idea. Once you actually get this going, who says this just doesn't become an exchange of money and ideas for anything and has little or nothing to do with conservative values.
Right, so every project needs to be vetted for ideological affinity.
And who does that?
Well, at this point, it would just be me.
Yeah,
So it
and
would
that's where I was going. Okay, so we've got, you now become the arbiter of what's conservative for this purpose.
Right.
Okay.
And I can assure you, it'll be pretty conservative.
So,
Maybe he'd hire this panel.
so are
just
you a
gonna-
red Tory or a blue Tory?
My first party membership was a Reform Party membership in 1991. Mr. Manning came and spoke at Wilfrid Laurier University, and John Redekop sold me a membership afterwards.
Thank you.
And let me be clear that you see me in red all the time. It's the color of my flag. It has nothing to do with political persuasion.
Thank you very much, Craig. So thank you very much to our three presenters. We thought it would be fun to get the audience involved. Now, all of you have had a chance to meet our presenters over the conference, hear about their projects. Before we take the three judges away to make their decision, I think that they would be extremely influenced by a democratic vote, show of support for each of the three projects. So do you remember what those projects were? I'm going to give them to you in order here. So we have Pierre-Olivier Bastien-Dionne. He was talking about using $10,000 to fund 4 videos for think tanks. Please give a show of support for Pierre-Olivier. Our second presenter was Vass Bednar. She has an idea for a federalism board game, possibly called Wonks. Please give your show of support for Vass Bednar and federalism. This is such a democratic way of doing it. I love it. Okay, our third presenter, you just saw him, Craig Dellandrea. He's talking about a crowdsourcing funding website for mostly blue conservative ideas. Please give a show of support for Craig Dellandrea. Thank you very much. We're going to go now and check our crowd reader, which is in the back. The judges are going to take a 10-minute break here to discuss the projects and come back to you, but don't go anywhere. Preston and the Manning Center have an uncanny ability to attract the top leaders. But if you thought that the visit by the current Prime Minister, Stephen Harper, was pretty cool, they have actually resurrected the first Prime Minister of Canada to speak to us today. While the judges are off making their decision, please join me in welcoming Sir John A. Macdonald.
Well, don't read too much into this now, but it is water, and I'll set it right here. Well, good afternoon. It is indeed a pleasure for Lady Macdonald and me to be able to come over here from Ironscliffe this afternoon and join you at this fine occasion. Now, I'm in fine form myself at the moment, despite my all too quickly advancing years. Sound of wind and limb, says my doctor. And I look forward to enjoying myself during this anniversary year of 1887, the 20th anniversary of the Dominion of Canada, and the Golden Jubilee of our Sovereign Lady, Queen Victoria. Long may she reign over us. Now, our election victory on February the 22nd, with a healthy margin, our third straight majority, shows the confidence of the people in our administration and their desire to keep us in power as we continue to build a strong and prosperous nation. Now, I can reflect back now over 2 decades to the summer and fall of 1864, when the scheme for confederation of all the British North American provinces was launched. Now, at that time, the question of colonial union was of such magnitude that it dwarfed every other question on this portion of the continent. Our Constitution was deadlocked. A grander, wider vision was needed. We found ourselves on fortune's crowning slope, and we knew that we must not let this opportunity pass. It was an opportunity that may never recur. Now, if we did not take advantage of the time, if we showed ourselves unequal to the occasion, it may never return, and we should hereafter bitterly and unavailingly regret having failed to embrace the happy opportunity offered of founding a great nation under the fostering care of Great Britain and our sovereign lady, Queen Victoria. Everyone admitted that the union must take place sometime, and I knew that was the time. We had to determine the future of Canada and whether it would be a limited constitutional monarchy or a Yankee democracy. Yes. British North America must belong either to the American or the British system of government. As my late lamented friend and colleague Sir George Cartier put it, the question is reduced to this: we must either have a British North American Federation or else be absorbed into the American Federation. This led to 2 successful conferences at Charlottetown in September and Quebec City in October of 1864. A new constitution, the British North America Act, with its 72 resolutions, was drafted to settle many of the vexed questions which have retarded the prosperity of the colonies as a whole. We proceeded on to the London Conference in December of 1866 and the final steps of this eventful journey and the formation of the Dominion of Canada. And with great pride, I returned home to Canada in April of 1867 with the Act uniting a British North America in my pocket and a new wife on my arm. This is our 20th anniversary, I'm proud to say. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Under my 20 years under my own female monarch, I may suggest, and long may she reign. Our patience and perseverance has prevailed, and our nation now celebrates the 20th anniversary of 1867. And I am, like you who hear me now, a Canadian, heart and soul. And though I have the misfortune to be born a Scotchman, still I was caught young and brought to this country before I had been very much corrupted. And since I've been in Canada since I was 5 years old, and my affections and my family are here, and all my hopes and remembrances are Canadian. Now, over these 2 decades, our accomplishments have been many. Our population now approaches 5 million, and the peaceful absorption of thousands of new immigrants continues to open the West. The gristle has begun to harden to bone as our institutions develop and mature. Now, within 2 years of Confederation, we added the vast territories of the Hudson Bay Company to the Dominion, in what one supporter of mine said recently was the largest real estate deal in history. I think he's right. And just 7 years ago, we added the Arctic archipelago. We are truly a new northern nation, as the Honorable Darcy McGee used to exclaim so vigorously. And we can take pride in the role of the Northwest Mounted Police in the opening of the West, expanding Canadian law and authority ahead of large-scale settlement. The Union has been thoroughly cemented, and the Dominion of Canada has a brilliant future. But we look up to England and to English traditions for our guidance. We have everything to lose in being severed from England. We have everything to gain by the benign influence of Her Majesty's government. And under the, yes, let's hear it. For under the broad folds of the Union Jack, we enjoy the most ample liberty to govern ourselves as we please. And at the same time, we participate in the advantages which flow from association with the mightiest empire the world has ever seen. For behind us towers the majesty of England. Now, a few years ago, we said 0 on that time. It says, does that mean anything? Is that Grand Trunk time? Well, I don't see the judges, so I'll continue. A few years ago, we said to the Americans, we are perfectly willing to trade with you on equal terms. We are desirous of having a fair reciprocity treaty. But we will not consent to open our markets to you while yours remain closed to us. So we inaugurated the national policy, and you all know what followed. Almost as if by magic, the whole face of the country underwent a change. Stagnation and apathy and gloom and misery and want gave place to activity and enterprise and prosperity. Now, the Honorable Edward Blake and his Liberal Party have found our national policy, the NP, to be enthusiastically accepted by the whole country, and he knew that he must change his views. He therefore tried to hedge. He tried to wear two faces under one hat, or as the Yankee sailor said, to steer south by north. We must not remain mere hewers of wood and drawers of water. We must build up our manufactories. So we shall continue to strengthen our national policy and not allow Canada to become the Arctic fringe on the American blanket. But we also undertook that stupendous work, the Canadian Pacific Railway. Undeterred by the pessimistic views of our opponents, nay, in spite of their strenuous and even malignant opposition, we pushed forward that great enterprise. And in the whole annals of railway construction, there has been nothing to equal it. This great work is the triumph of the age, completed in a record time under the firm resolve of Mr. William Van Horn. The Canadian Pacific Railway extends now from ocean to ocean, opening up and developing the country at a marvelous rate, and forming an imperial highway to the east, over which the trade of the Indies is destined to reach the markets of Europe. It is now possible to travel from Liverpool to the Pacific in 10 days, as our premier surveyor, Mr. Sanford Fleming, predicted. This marvel of engineering has been open for over 1 full year for regular traffic, uniting east and west with bands of steel and drawing our 7 provinces together commercially, politically, and socially. We have tied the oceans together. Now, I admit I used to state that I never expected to live long enough to see that road completed, but that when my friends would be crossing the continent upon it, I would be looking down upon them from the serene heights of heaven above. Now, my opponents said I would be looking up from the pit beneath, but in reality, to the surprise of both, I took a horizontal view. And on our trip to the Pacific last summer, Lady MacDonald stubbornly insisted on riding on the front of the engine above the cowcatcher all through the Rocky Mountains. Now, as I recall, she said at the time, "This is quite lovely. I shall travel on this cowcatcher from summit to sea." Now, she wrote about her experiences for Murray's Magazine from London. Some of you may have seen her article entitled "By Car and by Cowcatcher." I highly recommend it for your reading pleasure. Now, we all knew that this past election has been hard fought. And I attended one very noisy meeting down in Lambton County, the Honorable Alexander Mackenzie's home turf, where some speakers were literally howled down. And when I was introduced, the uproar was deafening. And an enormous man stood up at the back of the hall, and he said in a loud voice, "Well, let us listen to Sir John. We have a reputation in this town of granting speakers a good hearing." There was silence. Then the big voice called out, "Just because I did what I did doesn't mean I would vote for you. I wouldn't vote for you if you were the angel Gabriel." Well, I replied, "You're so right. You wouldn't be in my constituency." But I assured him that Providence is on our side, and if he wished a continuance of the same skies and the same crops, he would keep us in power. On July the 1st of 1867, as I get the hook, the Dominion of Canada was launched upon the sea of history and sails yet on a prosperous voyage. And I shall continue the work of building up on this continent, under the flag of England, a great and powerful nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir John. Let's give another round of applause. I think Sir John is looking pretty good. Well, gosh, I certainly feel very much for the presenters, the 3 today whose projects are being judged. I remember the feeling 2 years ago when it was me sitting in your seats. The judges, I can attest, have had a very difficult decision, first of all, in narrowing down the large number of submissions to the final 3. You are all in very good company. Thank you very much for all of your hard work. I am going to turn the podium over to Cliff Friars and Deb and Steve, who are going to announce the winner.
Okay, after 2 hours of deliberation, we've talked about this, and actually there was a problem created here because it is actually obvious who should win. Does anyone know why it is obvious that someone should win here? Yeah, who said that? Good one. It took us a few minutes to get there, but my God, if we give it to Blue Crowd, he can raise the money to fund the other 2. So we have decided that Blue Crowd is the winner. We like the concept behind that, and we do hope that you make as your first project funding the other 2. But to further that, I'll ask Deb to make some comments.
We liked all the ideas. They were just terrific. But I told you, first of all, that I am a school teacher and I know that the board game will fly. I'm donating $50 this afternoon so that Blue Crowd, your first project's going to be for the board game. I want it called Wonks, if I have any proprietary measure here, for 50 lousy bucks. And I'd love it. I'll talk to you later about it, Vass. But this, I think, needs to go online, this board game, first of all at the Manning Center, and then I'd love to see it in the school. So there's my 50 bucks.
And I too am giving 50 bucks to the board game. I actually support the board game with all my heart. I hope it makes it there.
Now, I'm in the news media, and I'm on the receiving end constantly of reports from think tanks. And I can tell you that they have to lift them off the page, as they say. They've got to make them more lively, and I think they have to make them more marketable. So the idea of the think tank shorts, is very appealing to me. And so my $50 is going to ensure that on Blue Crowd, you get some of those videos on Blue Crowd. I love the idea of the board game. I had some concerns about its commercial viability, as I expressed earlier, and I do think that Blue Crowd's time has come in Canada. I know we're not reinventing the wheel, that you are adopting some procedures, best practices, if you will, that we've seen elsewhere in the world, and I wish you the best with it.
Let's show our 50s, boys. Oh, here we are.
Okay, here we go.
So there is 50 to get you.
Okay.
Why don't we get everybody this direction, just so they're not hiding. Hold the
There we go.
fingers up, I hate to say it, but come to the left. Just come a little bit to the left.
This is so Canadian. Everybody wins and nobody loses.
We got to make it clear we're giving the money to him.
Congratulations.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the 2012 Manning Networking Conference, and we just want to thank you all for your participation. It was a wonderful 2 days. We just very much appreciate you, and let's go on out there and build a conservative movement and then come back for Manning Networking Conference 2013. Thank you all very much, and have a great day. Thank you.